Episode 1 in the drop zone. Here we are, finally getting this thing started. We have been waiting patiently to get this going, and finally we're here live in the studio for the first time. I'm excited about this episode because I figured when I started this podcast thing going, I said to myself, I thought, this have been wanting to do this for a while, and I can't start something like this without starting from the very beginning and going back. And so I had to bring on my first hunting partner, first guy I got in the woods with, the first guy we did any kind of hunting kind of stuff with, and that's my brother Ryan. So he's in the studio today with us for the first time.
What's up? What's up?
So first time, I was thinking when we were going to do this, how to start this out, and I think we only can start something like this out with. When we started deer hunting, we had no clue what was going on.
Oh my God.
And the stuff that the stuff that we pulled and places that we hunted, looking back, it's funny because we had some prime time hunting ground and had no idea.
Shoot. We had damn good hunting ground. It was really good.
It's crazy because our dad was more of a bird hunter, and so the guy that really introduced us to deer hunting was our stepdad.
OLD.
And
he loved it. He loved it.
So we have to credit our deer hunting to our stepdad. He was the first one to get us into it, and heck, he himself didn't know much about it.
I got to throw somebody else in there too. Vince Edwards. He was the kind of one that kept pushing me along with the bow hunting. Too. He did a lot of bow hunting also.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we're hoping to at some point get him in the studio.
Yeah, he'd be a good one to have on here for sure.
Tell some stories. He's been around a long time, did a lot of hunting. But yeah, we got started when we were young. I think I was in probably the 7th grade, I think, is when I first got my first deer permit. And we was hunting Marion County ground in Illinois here. And I didn't mention the farmers and stuff names, but
I didn't go with you. I didn't go with you when you went for your first hunt. When you for your gun hunt that you killed that one.
My first deer.
Yeah, I wasn't there that year. I didn't come to the next year.
People need to understand, like, it was a lot different now than back then. We started off hunting in Marion County, and our stepdad's buddy had some ground and had some grain bins. Yep. And they had a little tool shed in the back side of these grain bins, and we went in and cleaned all that junk out of that little building, and it was little, and turned that thing into.
It was an old chicken coop. I think it was an old chicken coop or some kind of like little hog barn type thing. It was, it just had a little. I don't even know that if they put a false floor in it. I think they ended up putting a floor in it. I think it might even have been a dirt floor, and they put a floor in it to start out with.
It could have. And we packed in there like sardines. There was about 8 of us at the time.
All on their bunk beds.
Yeah, bunk beds. And they had carpet on the walls. And we would sit up at night with a BB gun and shoot mice and rats out of the thing because there's corn in them grain bins right in front. And we did that for a couple years. And then they added on. We added on to it.
And made like some leftover lumber somewhere, and then they added on to that place and put a couple windows in there and everything in the kitchen, and then where we first come in, that stayed our mud room, And we still
had a mud room.
Yeah, we still slept in the same place though, You still slept in the same bunk beds.
But man, it worked. That's the thing, is it worked. Like we
had a
did
wood
it.
Stove in there,
and the deer. I mean, if we would just had any sense of what we were doing, from today's world now, back then, we would have cleaned up on some of the deer we seen that
Well,
got away.
the biggest thing that I see about it was the acreage that we had to hunt. So you didn't have just a little 40-acre piece here that you hunted. I mean, that we had spots that you didn't have to burn one place out. You could hunt there. We had access to a lot of ground around there. I mean, a lot of different spots that were really good. All that were really good. We were young, man. We didn't know. I mean, look what like when we sat on a tailgate at the price of that ground that was across from the
At
old
Bell
church, the Bell
Baptist.
Baptist, the old church place there. You know,
I mean, back then you could get scrub ground, or I call it scrub ground, which should just be hunting ground. It ain't good for nothing other than
saplings,
hunting.
and a few trees here that had already been logged off, and
$800 an acre that guy
yeah.
wanted for that ground, and we thought that
It
was
was
high.
like 40. It was like 40 acres. I think it was that
Yeah.
little chunk right there where you could make it either go straight and go down to the bottoms or make that right there, that little square.
Why we did not jump on that? But
We did.
800 was a lot back then.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a lot of money. And looking at it now,
for as young as we was,
yeah, if we could have just got our, looked at the long term now, I mean, you can't even touch a piece of ground for.
No, heck no. I would have loved to have been able to take these kids, hunting over there and let them see what that was all about, because that was cool. I mean, you could hunt like if you wanted to hunt. It reminded me a lot of like some of the public hunting that we have not too far from here south. Of places that we go. It's like little Nebraska there. You can get out in there and it's all grassy fields and you can hunt just little tree line snippets, and then bucks were in and out of there all the time. We just we didn't know what we was doing, and there was agriculture everywhere, and then you could go hunt big timber if you wanted to hunt big timber in the oak trees and stuff like that. They had that too. I mean, and Christmas tree farms, with all the, there was some good hunting up there.
I never did get to spend enough time at the Christmas tree farm, and I still to this day think a ton about that ground, because
I'd love to have seen the trees that were probably rubbed up in there.
We never did get an opportunity to really mess with that piece. And I know that it was prime time. I mean, I remember as a kid one time we were out looking at ground and pulled up in a truck. Remember them monster bucks out there in that field fighting over that? I mean, fighting over that doe. And, now we would have seen something like that and been like, how are we going to get on them? What's the plan to get on them? We just moved on to a new spot. Well, this looks like it'd be good, and we've never seen it again.
Right, and then the technology, that plays a big part into that now. How you can get onto them. Once you see them, they're there. Then there's things that you can do to bounce around. The trail cameras and stuff to get on them and make it a lot easier. That we didn't have that back then. Heck, we didn't even have a cell phone back then. You know what I mean?
Well, look at that.
Meet you back here at dark. That's what it was. I mean, there was no
communication.
You seeing anything? I mean, later, way later in our years, we got into having them little two-way radios where we would communicate back and forth. But other than that,
it was you just seen each other at the truck. And did you see anything?
Parted ways in the morning and come back and mid morning, and parted ways in the evening and come see you at the truck at dark. And
it's crazy how much things have changed, even in at our age, from when we started with trail cameras. And these trail cameras now are just. What do you think about trail cameras?
I think they're a really good tool.
What do you feel about? There's a talk that we are giving ourselves more of an advantage. And like there's states now where you can have trail cameras out west. Some of the states you can have a trail camera, but you can't have cell cameras. Do you think that that's a problem, that we can see these deer now in that food plot on the spot versus you still got to go out there and pull a card, check it, or are you good with it?
I mean, anybody in this state that chases big deer, dude, how hard they are to get on. It doesn't matter if you got a cell camera out there or what you got going on. I just think it's a tool to kind of help you pattern a little bit. But them deer, them old bucks, man, they always are doing something different. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, it's unless you're getting them in their right of mind in the rut or something like that, they're doing something different. They never. I very rarely think that they ever take the same path, honestly. The only reason why I say that is because up at the private place that I hunt, we just started getting some really good ones around there, and having to sell cameras on each end of the fields, and seeing them come in and out of there, and they're always doing something different angles coming across the fields and stuff. So that they're not taking the same ways, So no, I don't think that I think that it's a good tool for anybody that's hunting to have the cell cameras, because you're not pumping your ground full of scent and stuff out there, always checking your cards, and you just hunt your wins. I mean, that's a key thing, is hunting wind. I mean, and so when you hunt your wins, you know when to get in there and when not to get in there. And you got them cameras, to tell you, what's rolling around there.
Do you feel like the deer? This question is going to be something I ask everybody that we have on the show and stuff, because I get such mixed just with talking with guys about stuff. How, like, one of my buddies that I deer hunt with all the time says he's a firm believer that them big bucks, once they figure out a camera's there, they'll avoid it. He swears that those cameras, that big deer, you still get pictures of deer on them, but he says that he feels like those cameras affect those deer in some way. I'm on the fence. I don't know. I sometimes I think that they might. Does it affect them to not come by? I don't know. I just don't know where I stand. He's said that he's watched. We've had cameras set up, and he's been in a position, and he's watched a deer come up and skirt the camera and go right back where he was going, but just avoided it. Like, and I don't think that the deer are avoiding them because they're getting their picture taken naturally. I think that it's something new, and a big buck don't like new things. But you see him at night. I mean,
you still, I can see where you can say that, where he can be speaking like that, because with the cameras, I don't know that for sure, but I do know that I was getting a particular deer that I was chasing on that piece of private that I hunt. I was getting a lot of pictures of this deer on both ends of the fields religiously, and it was not affecting it. And I'm talking all through the beginning of season, till the end of season, all the way till he dropped his antlers. And I do know that I this year I added a ladder stand on the corner of where that trail camera was, and naturally after the leaves fell off, it stuck out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? And I do know that once I had pictures of that deer in October, on like the 3rd of October, and I put that stand up the last weekend of September, and that was the first pictures I had him on there. And after that, I probably very rarely got pictures of him till way later. Like, I think that he did avoid it because of.
You think he avoided it because of scent? You being in there and scent?
That could have been that,
or the can, or
well,
he knows associates.
I don't know how much he was coming across through there beforehand, though. Because I hadn't had my cameras out there with racing. I just hadn't got to getting my stuff out in time, but I do think that stand definitely deterred him. And later on, I guess he probably got comfortable with him, because I did get a daylight picture of him coming back, but he was chasing a doe. So you know what I mean? That all goes hand in hand. Whenever they get in that frame of mind, they do different things and stuff that they would not normally do. That's right.
I don't know. I'm all over the place with it. I really don't have a hard feeling on where I'm at with it, because I just think that they're so smart. And it's not so much, it's the camera, the flash, or whatever the camera's doing. It's if he's using a route
something new,
and all of a sudden there's something new in there that wasn't there before, that's not of the norm to him, then automatically I feel like sometimes in their brain they think, I ain't coming back by here.
Well, and that goes with anything. I mean, we all know that they don't use the same travel patterns either. ways. So whether that camera's there or not, they're still using different travel patterns. I mean, you can't have a camera, everywhere in the timber. I mean, you can just know where your go-to spots are and where your rut spots are, where your bucks are rolling through the timber and your rut spots, and that's where you put your cameras. But if you leave them out there, all year long, like I said, when they get in that frame of mind in the rut spots, I mean, that's the ones. I mean, your field edges that yeah, you're going to get your pictures of your does and stuff like that, like you normally do. But when you put them in your rut spots, when they're coming by them, they're cruising, man. They got their mind on one thing. I mean, so who knows? They are very smart. I mean, I agree 100% with everything you're saying about them knowing something different in the area for sure. For sure.
I think for hunters, I think it's most hunters. I mean, it's inventory. It's being able to inventory what's made it, what hasn't made it, what's new.
Yep.
And then getting, and it does eliminate some time where should I hunt in this pinch point? Well, I've had a camera up here for 4 weeks and ain't seen a deer. Right. Well, maybe I don't need to spend any time in here. So I think they're definitely a necessity. I'm glad we have them.
And you can move it like you just said. Okay, I've had this camera in here for a month, and it's in a pinch point. I ain't seen nothing, so I ain't going to go in there. And then you go get that camera out there, boom, and you move it somewhere else. And as you're walking into your tree stand, I always carry a spare trail camera in my backpack. Normally, out of 99% of the time. And if I'm walking through somewhere and I see something, I'll just throw it up. Ever since I've started getting the cell cameras, I've only had them. This is only my third year of having them, so right. I haven't really had them that long.
Well, they've come a long way.
Oh, and, yeah.
It's kind of crazy what they're capable of now. And there's so many different brands. I'm not going to go into all the different brands. I think the thing with trail cameras is you got to research them, find what you like, what you want them to do for you. And then, I mean, anymore, they're all capable of doing the same thing. It's just some have better things than others, and you got to figure out what you like or what you need or what you want. I know the kind that we use I like because I can share my login information with my buddy that I hunt with, Eric, and
both
he can see them too. And it's good for me because he lives closer to where we hunt. So if he's seeing something, he can go out and change things around where I'm an hour and a half away from there. So it works out great for us because he can see the same thing I'm seeing and adjust things. So I love having them. Another topic I wanted to discuss with you that's a hot topic for people is where we're at with crossbows now, because it's a heated subject. A lot of people discuss it. There's a lot of archery hunters that don't like it. Not so much they don't like the crossbow. They don't like how they've implemented, where crossbow hunters can hunt the whole archery season. What do you think? Because let's be real, it's put twice the people in the timber now than what used to be in the timber.
100%
in the archery season. So more people around, more people pushing deer, moving into areas that they would never be there unless it was a certain season for them. I don't think that crossbow hunters are bad hunters. I'm not going to down people that use a crossbow.
No, it's just another avenue of enjoying the outdoors and hunting and that, and at the end of the day, that's what the end of the goal is. We want to try to get more people in the outdoors because it'll keep these kids, out of trouble and doing the right thing and teaching them,
Do you think we should just have a season? Like a crossbow season, or do you think it's okay to just run it with the archery season?
100% age restriction. I think that you should be able to take your kid out and let them hunt with a crossbow to a certain point to where that you have to hunt with a compound bow or a recurve or wait for the gun season if you don't want to. If you can't get good enough to, I shouldn't say good enough, or if you don't, ever get comfortable shooting a compound bow. And then if you're at a certain age where you're older, and your shoulders are bad and you want to hunt, you should be able to go out. I mean, everybody likes to bow hunt. That's, that's the surprise time, when you're in the tree and everything's green and the deer popping out everywhere, that's when it's fun. That's when your heart starts racing and pounding. So I get everybody wants to hunt, but I think age restriction. I think kids and elderly. And I think that when they first come out with it, they came out with it more gearing it towards the elderly.
I agree.
In the doctor's notes and stuff like that. I think that if you're capable of using a compound bow, I think it's just like anything, man. You practice with it, you can do it. I mean,
I agree somewhat. I think that it's good for kids, getting them into the woods and getting them hunting. It gives them, gun season's only 7 days, so that's not ideal. And as a norm, I mean, Jesus, seems like anymore as the years go by, this isn't the case. But a lot of times, by the time the gun seasons get here, the weather it can turn bad, and young kids can't sit in that cold weather as long as an adult can. So they're burnt out. You're going to burn them out. You're going to get them to where they don't like it because of the colds and stuff like that. So I think it's a good thing. I think that, disabilities is something that they should use them. I just wish, I don't know where I'm at. I think that the reason why I say it is because I hear you hear two people talk all the time. And I think a lot of people's mentality, and not all, I'm not going to say all, but I think a lot of people's mentality is they look at a crossbow, and I'm telling you, they don't look at them as they do a piece of archery equipment, because every little twig and limb when you hit with an arrow deflects, and you're missing your target. These things are no different. And the way people hold them, shoulder them, their brain thinks of them as a gun. They take shots that they wouldn't have probably took if they had a bow in their hand. And now there's people we're wounding more. I just think that that their people don't understand them like what they really are.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And not all. I'm not going to say everybody.
Right. And I get it 100% what you're saying with that. But as far as like the wounding thing, I mean, to me, the whole thing with making somebody use compound bow, to me, is the reward. Getting that deer into you that close, getting your draw cycle pulled back, completing the shot, harvesting the animal, making a good ethical shot on the deer, and harvesting your animal, to me, is more rewarding. And I'm not going to put a feather in my hat or in talons, but he wanted to kill a deer, and I kept telling him how, if you put your time in and you try, you can kill him with a bow. I mean, you can kill your first deer ever. You'll be the first one out of our family ever to kill your first deer with a bow and arrow. I said, we've all killed them with guns and other things. And I said, you will be the first one to harvest your first deer. And he did it. And I just think that it's rewarding when you do that. I mean, and that's why I think that everybody should be able to have to experience that.
I don't disagree. I think that the reward of a deer with a piece of archery equipment is way more rewarding than it is with a gun. I mean,
you just see everything's right there on top of you. I mean, and your heart's racing, I mean, you're right there. Everything's just right on top of you, happening so fast. I don't know. I have nothing against gun hunting at all. I don't have nothing against hunting anything. Like I said it before, I think that just being in the outdoors, but to the crossbow thing, I just think age restriction. That's would be my fix to that, or what I would say, or like you said, or a permanent injury where you can't. Because I think everybody should have a fair chance to be in the outdoors.
I agree. I think that the outdoors is what it's about. Getting people out there and getting people in the woods.
But by all means, if that's where your question was going, I think if you're capable of shooting a compound bow, you should put the time in like everybody else does, and go out and practice with one and get good enough. And I'm telling you, eventually it will happen for you. I don't know how many I missed and had, before, and slung arrows and did the same thing, and eventually it works out.
What do you think about, the state of Illinois? If you ask me, my personal opinion is, with having more people in the woods now, I think there's more people in the woods now than there ever has been. I'd have to go pull up analytics or something like that to find out for sure. But I think that there's more people hunting now than what has been hunting in the last 20 years. With having crossbows and now they make guns that are easier for kids to shoot. I just think that there's more people hunting. I think.
Well, I mean, and whoever's pushing that's good, because that's what we're really the end goal. You want people in the woods. So, I mean, are we getting overpopulated with hunters? I don't know.
I don't either.
I mean,
I don't know.
and I do, and we do. Me and the boys this year, we did a few hunts on some public ground, and I mean, I have been many times in years of the past. I mean,
where's your license plates from?
Illinois.
Looking when you pulling them parking lots.
Oh man,
what states are the license plates from?
All southern states, mostly all southern states. I mean, that's where a lot of them come from.
So we get a lot of out of state hunters naturally, because film hunters and people watch it on TV and big deer killed. And I mean, if I was a hunter and I lived in Alabama, or I live somewhere and I want to go where there's big deer, I'm going to travel too. I get all that, but I think restrictions. Our state is lacking on restrictions of. I'm a firm believer in a four-horn, one side.
I would love to see the state of Illinois do that. I would love that. I know that,
and I think we need it now more than any.
Yeah, I would love to see them do that, or on a side.
I think that and these are all personal opinions, but this is just stuff that I think as a hunter would be fair for our state. Is I think a doe before a buck. I think you should have to harvest. Our doe population is out there because everybody's hunting big trophy whitetails. I do the same thing, right. But I think that if we implemented, a lot of deer hunters do harvest does on their own. They just do. They for their meat and things like that. But I think that we should have some sort of a deer before buck. You have to take at least one doe before a buck. I know on the grounds that I'm hunting on, that's going to start next year. Like guys that come up there to hunt on some of the ground that we have that they lease out to other people, is you got to kill a doe before you kill a buck. And I think because the farmers that we're hunting on are screaming to the top of their lungs that they want them killed. They're tearing up their crops, and they want, they don't want just trophy hunters out there. They want people killing deer. So I think that the state as well, we should do something. I know that we do have doe only seasons and stuff like that, but I think a lot of our archery season is the longest season we have. I don't think we take out enough does in that season. I mean, I'd have to look at numbers from the past, but I know that the grounds I hunt, I don't know how many the grounds you hunt a lot, but are you covered up in does all the time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know how it is. When you're horn hunting, you don't want to put nothing down on the ground when, especially like, just speaking for myself, my good private ground is a 40-acre chunk of timber that's surrounded by other timbers. So I only have that 40-acre chunk of timber. So in my mind, it always bothers me to think about shooting a deer, going in there, dragging it out. What if he's laying over there? Then how long is he busted out of there for? Knowing that they're around there. That's my whole thing. But so it's kind of hard to do that. You're in the back of your mind, you're always thinking about that. And you got other places that you can hunt, and for a long time, that's what I did. But I agree. I think that, and the guy that I hunt on up there, we talked about this year, and I tried to get up there, but I just couldn't get no north winds, with it being so warm. I couldn't get up there and hunt like I wanted to hunt. And we could have cleaned the house on some does out of there with what we had going on with putting that food plot and stuff in this year. It really worked out well. And I think next year we'll definitely, in the beginning of the season, just, get it out of the way and get some does. No,
that's where I'm at. I always try to wait.
Me too, and it's not even worth it. Hell, I was out here hunting today, and it's cold.
Yeah, and I try to always, if you use the gun season, as I always call it my cleanup season, unless just some massive buck comes by. But I always try to use the gun season to just shoot does, for the farmers, to try to help them out too, because. Right. Especially your farmers that got land that they're they're crop farming. some people just have hunting ground,
Right.
and that's fine. They can do however they want. But I know a lot of the county that I hunt in, a lot of the farmers are just screaming does. We need you guys killing does. We need does killed. So we're going to work on that ourselves. Bows have come a long way in the past few years. I know when I started out, I asked for a bow for Christmas. Dad bought me this bow. I don't even know what
it was
the
a
heck it was.
PSE Nova, I believe it was. I think
Well, the
it was
first one was so
PSE
long that they
Nova.
couldn't even turn the
I remember, and he took it
draw
back
length
to.
down.
I'm almost positive it probably come from a pawn shop,
Probably.
if I'm not
That
mistaken.
or
Or
some deal on a job or
somebody had
something,
one on
but-
a job, or somebody got it from the pawn shop for him, and gave it to him. But he took it back somehow and traded it in for another one, didn't he? And come back with something different, or what?
Come back with another one, but everything the draw. Nowadays you can adjust these draw lengths on it. These things. I mean, I remember the first bow
They
I
were
hunted
all
with,
wheels.
when I drew back. I mean, the string was way back behind. I mean, I couldn't even. I it would have been a miracle to kill anything with it. And then naturally, I kind of fell in once I got a little older. Kind of knew what was going on. But I like my first bow that I killed a deer with was it was a PSE whitetail too, and I bet
PSE
that thing
whitetail,
was
too.
slow as
That was probably.
snail.
I wonder if that bow was a cam bow or if it was a wheel bow.
It was cam.
It was cam.
Yeah. It was like when they first started coming out with cams, because they made like a whitetail 1 and then a whitetail 2, I think. And I hunted with it for a few years, and then I ended up with Hoyt, and I hunted Hoyts for a long time.
Was as I did too.
A long time.
Yeah, I had many of them. Good bows.
Yeah, real good
They were
bows.
good bows.
Now I'm shooting an Elite. I'm happy with it. It's a good bow. But they're all like, if you go to these bow shops now and you line these bows up, it all comes down to preference, because they're all
What you like.
Yeah, it's all about what you like, because they're all built so much. They do so much of the same that,
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of it's just personal choice.
Well, I mean, this year I actually picked up a different brand that I started shooting with Prime. I love my Ritual. Love it. But I shot probably three different ones before the one that I ended up with, and that was the inlines that I started out shooting in, and it was the whole time was the bows shot good. They the back wall was really stout and firm, and you could hold them. The let off was nice. But the draw cycle, I tried the inline 3 and the inline 5, and I just couldn't get the draw cycle. And the guy that I deal with my bows, Gary Towle and Carlisle, he told me that he was shooting this Revix, and it's like, well, I'll try that. And he had one come in that was a leftover, so I went down there and I bought that and I shot that. Now I really like that bow. It shoots a lot like my Elite as far as the draw cycle is really smooth like my Elite. But the back wall is just a little bit different, and it's got a really good back wall. But it is definitely personal preference on that stuff. Some people like that stiff draw cycle. I just and that was what the whole thing with the both the inlines is. The draw cycle was really, really stiff, and I couldn't do it. I just didn't like it. They shot good bows. I mean, it shot good. It was accurate. Had no issues with anything else. It was just I couldn't get used to the draw cycle. So as your personal preference is key. Yes.
What do you think about those first ones when they had like 30%?
Oh man,
shooting 60, 70 pounds on 30%, you're holding on.
You better be on
you
got to be on your game. I mean, you got to be able to get that thing drawn back and be able to get rid of that arrow.
How many times was you ever drawn back and you had to let her go because you couldn't hold it no more?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
many times. Spook deer arrow flies off the end of your string when you're trying to let it down on the ground. It goes, sticks the broadhead right into mine. Yep. Gone, tails, nothing but tails.
Oh my land, they've come a long way. The bows have just come along. All the equipment has just come a long way.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can get drawn back so early now, especially on your big deer, because you're as well as I do that your bucks when they're coming in there, they're checking everything out, man. They're weary, and like unless they're in the heat of that moment. They're checking everything out. So, you can get your bow pulled back early and know when you're at your window, you got plenty of time for them to get to the window. I mean, I've watched stuff on guys on YouTube. They hold that stuff back and they'll have their timer on there. And some of them are over, 2 and 3, 4, 5 minutes. These guys are holding these bows.
You ain't
back.
doing that with them 30%
left. No.
I don't care who you are.
No.
You ain't doing that. I mean, even we started talking about this and then I started thinking about like, I was never one to hunt out the climbers at first. You always liked them. I was always scared of them. I didn't like clanging things around them. And I can remember some of them first climbers were just rattle traps, dude. I mean, them things
used to make fun of me because
I could hear you
when we was hunting up at by Fillmore.
Yeah,
we was hunting up in there. Yeah.
I mean, I could hear you I could hear you get set up.
Oh, I know.
And then up the tree, clink.
Man, I'll tell you what though, I left that climber that you're talking about. I left that climber on that tree for I don't know how many years in the woods, and it was an old steel one, so it had angle iron that went onto the tree,
Death traps.
All angle iron. And I left that. I killed a lot of deer out of that.
That was a good spot.
Yeah, I killed a lot of deer out of there, man.
That was just a naturally good spot.
Yes, I slayed some does out there. I know that. I killed a lot of does up that place.
We've had some good hunting areas, man, over the years. Some good ones.
Yeah, it's always. I always say it's so sad when you lose them. You know what I mean? You put time in and you figure them out, and it always seems like as soon as you start figuring stuff out is when it goes, and that's just the luck of the draw how it goes sometimes.
What's some stuff you got going on and stuff that you think about with?
Well, I mean, when you said you wanted to start doing this podcast, I had to aggravate you, and you was trying to tell me, how we need it. I was telling you I was wanting to maybe start filming again because that's what me and you started out doing, and
pawn shop.
Yeah,
2 pawn shop cameras that were $25 a piece.
They were cheap.
That we got, and they were. But we filmed and killed deer with them.
We did, and heck, that one time we entered that Campbell's Outdoor Challenge with that little. I think it was like a little 120-inch buck I killed up.
I don't know. I bet you there ain't a whole lot of people that remember Campbell's Outdoors.
Well,
challenge.
They just kind of went. Whole thing just went out of business or unfolded here not too terribly long ago, because I still see. As I was looking for cameras, I still see some of their stuff on for sale on the internet, with where, how they always had the camouflage skins and stuff on their stuff, and it had the Campbell and the deer on it,
Yeah.
So I still see some of their stuff out there. So it's not too terribly old, within the past 10 years. So I don't know exactly when they folded it up or when that whole deal put going on, but yeah.
Do you remember how that played out? So when they were doing that challenge, they had 0 inches to 120 inch deer, and then they had 120 to 130, and then up. So when we filmed you shooting that deer, it was like we had it measured out, or what? It was like 114 inches.
Yeah,
that buck.
It was.
So we sent it into that.
It didn't matter.
Category.
I killed that thing. I killed it, and it was on camera. We had it all on feed, and had to hurry up and play it back to make sure we got it on video.
Yeah,
and it was on video. I was good.
And we got second place.
Growing up, that's all we thought about. I mean, that's all we watched was all them guys hunting on all the videos. I mean, yeah, we wanted to try to be like they were,
We got second place out of that deal. I remember we got that box in the mail, and it was 2 T-shirts, 2 stickers, and I don't know, there was some other garbage in there, and then when I remember watching the episode of the people, because if you won, then you got invited down to film hunt like on their ground for another competition. And I remember watching the winner, and I was like, we blew. How did we get second, man? I mean, our footage was way better than that guy's. Well,
we had good. I mean, and if you recall that day, man, we had bucks all over us that day. They were all coming from every different direction.
We remember when we got in there and got
there was
set
a couple
up.
Good ones. There was a big old wide one that come down off the ridge, man. Yeah, I remember that.
We just couldn't get even close.
That was a good. I mean, you always remember those good hunts. When you always have a good hunt, buck hunts. During the rut. I always remember those mornings.
That was
that was
fun.
an afternoon actually.
That was fun, man. That was fun. But yeah, go ahead. What else?
But I mean, that's was the whole thing, you know. And where I hunt, the private ground that I hunt on, you know, after you and I we separated kind of hunting. You kind of went your way, and I was doing my own thing, you know, and I was hunting up at Sean's lot, you know, and you know, I got kind of started hunting with his boy. You know, he's no longer with us. You know, me and him become hunting partners, and that's kind of who I started hunting with. You know, and there towards the tail end, you know, him and one of his buddies, you know, me and him hunted together a lot. Like every weekend we hunted together, and during bow season, and then him and a couple of his buddies, they started wanting to get into doing some public stuff because I was doing some public stuff then, you know, and my biggest deer to date was killed off public ground, you know, so I'm all about public ground. I love it. I love new things. I love new challenges. I've just been trying to get, you know, your boy Furby and Talon into hunting in the public stuff because it's fun. You see different stuff. And so I got into to doing all that, and I like to hunt the public ground too, you know, and I think that, you know,
well, I think
keeps tons of pressure off of your good hunting ground, and until I think that's why the caliber, and he started doing that too, and I think that's why we're starting to, you know, God rest his soul, because I wish he was still here to see his property the way it developed. You know, now that we don't pound it all the time, you know, me and him pounded and pounded and pounded until he branched out and he started hunting with one of his buddies, and they got into the filming, and that's what intrigued me this year. You know, I was sitting out there thinking, I was like, man, they, you know, and I walked by one of his stands out there, and they still got an old camera arm on the side of it, you know, and I'm like, man, I got my kid now, you know, he's ate up with it. My nephew's ate up with it. I said, what better way? I mean, get some cameras in the woods and do the same thing that we did, man. It was fun. I loved sitting in the tree with you, didn't you? I mean, it was fun, and that's what he did with his buddy, you know. And actually, his buddy Quentin, he's been filming for some Midwest whitetail stuff, and he's been doing good. He's still stuck with it, you know. I kind of been picking his brain, you know, on some of the stuff, you know, about the cameras and stuff, you know. And we just bought 2 used Canon G20s just to give these guys to start beating around the woods.
Somewhere.
Exactly. So,
and equipment's come along.
Yeah,
it's come a long way on prices too, buddy. Let me tell you, just getting all that stuff started it's crazy, because I remember when you start bringing that up now. And I remember when we killed that first deer on camera. We were hunting in a tree line that was 20, 30 yards wide. We tromped back to the back of it. And we hadn't even hardly got set up. We was up in there trying to get ready, and them deer come down through there, and I shot that first one. And
man, I think we had a video camera where I think I was filming with the camera that the whole back thing of it was a screen. I don't even think that I don't even think that you looked through a scope. I think the whole back thing of it was a screen that when I filmed that.
But I remember we ran out of arrows. And had to climb back down and go down there and get more arrows because we'd shot all the arrows up, and we ended up killing a deer out of the deal. But
we did. That was our first actual. Yeah, of course, you had to be the first one. I mean, you had to be the first one with everything. I mean, yeah, that was our actual. We had to make sure you got one on camera before I could. But
you got the one that we got to send in. So what are you complaining about?
I know, because I whatever. I'm just
because I was better behind the camera.
No,
big time better. You know, I was. I was way better behind the camera. You couldn't hold steady all the time. I had a better steady arm.
Well, you're probably right. That's because I was better at making sure to get that arrow where that arrow needed to be, you know, at the end of the day to go grab that rack, you know.
I don't know.
But no, I mean, honestly, you know, when you told me you was going to start this podcast thing, you know, I was teasing you, you know, that I was going to do my own thing, but no, I fully want to do it with you. And I think that how can you have a podcast with not having, you know, stuff going on out in timber?
No, and I'm glad
you got to have that, you know, and with these young kids that we got in our family, you know, even like Trevor Warnicke's growing up, you know, a young kid growing up wanting to hunt. Drake Delaney's gonna be my first. He's gonna be my shotgun hunt next year. I'm gonna put him on. You know, I've hunted with his dad. You know, he was another hunting partner. You know, after I lost little Sean, you know, I started hunting with Delaney. You know, because like I said, you was doing your thing up there. You know, and I started hunting with Delaney. You know, and his boy, we've had him on a. We drug him through the timber all the time, you know, he barely even walk, you know, so
that kid's legit.
He is definitely, I'm ready to get him on a compound bow. He's about ready. I've been, you know, aggravating Brent a little bit. You know how we got to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And trying to push, and we get him on a compound bow. I'd definitely like to get him, you know, behind the camera because he's a character anyway. You know how that is.
Well, he's the president of the youth division.
Yeah,
he loves it.
Yeah, he's a good little hunter, man.
He's going to be on. He's going to be on the show.
He's definitely outworked his daddy in the hunting department. I know that. You know, at such a young age.
Well, this is our first one, and I said whenever I started this, I think what we're going to try to do is maybe one or two a month in the off season. And then I think as we roll into September, and get into the deer season, and once we are all back out in the woods and rolling, because now we're all hunting in all these different directions, that we can reconvene. And if we can make it happen, I'd love to do like a show a week, you know, once we hit the hunting season, and recap the week and get other guys in that are out hunting and talking hunting. And if we can do one a week during the hunting season, great. If we can't, we'll make it work. But we got some neat things coming through the off season. You know, I think that I'm going to try and get, there's a foundation. I've had John on before we were really podcasting. We were doing some stuff on Facebook, and I had John Burke on with the Jared Burke Foundation, and it's a great organization. They're getting ready to have their annual fundraiser, and I talked to Johnny. I'm hoping to get him back on before that fundraiser starts and talk about that and promote that a little bit, because it's so big now you can't even get a ticket to it, but they have it set up where you can sit at home and bid on things that they got, and they get some great stuff for it. It goes to a great cause, and I'm not going to go into that. If I can get John on, I'll let him explain all that. Another guy that's, I don't know if you follow him or not, that he's amazing, that I'd become friends with, is a guy from, he's over clean on the other side of Effingham, by Effingham, and his name's Ron Slifer. He's got a hound service, and he runs his own Facebook page, and he's got stories with every deer that he finds with his hounds, and some of the stuff that's happened to him over the last 2 years is crazy. Ron's agreed to do a show with us, so we'll have him. He's going to be coming up. Another good one's going to be.
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up. You know, from you introducing me and showing me who Ron was through all the hunting and stuff. You know, I've always, you know, I've known, you know, yourself, me. I mean, I've lost deer. You know, it's happened, and it's the most gut wrenching thing. And I've had buddies that lose them. You know, and it kind of intrigued me that I went out and got myself a bloodhound, and that we actually put her on her first track this year. It was just really easy. Talon had a good heart shot on a doe, and it was, you know, maybe an 80-yard track, you know, in the dark, you know, but it was the wildest thing that I'd ever done, you know, as far as being in a timber whenever that dog hit that trail and took off. I mean, it was like there's no holding them, you know.
No, dude, he's got some stories. It's going to be,
it's neat.
I can't wait to get him in. I'm hoping I can get him in the studio. If not, we might have to do it satellite where he calls in. But the stuff that he's encountered.
Yeah, I'd like to be a part of that for sure, because
he got shot. I mean, there's just he's so much. I want to let him tell the stories, because it's amazing. So he'll be
helping hunters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what his whole thing is, that to help hunters. You know, whenever you get into that situation, because you know as well as I do, that is a sad situation. And it happens.
Oh.
I mean, if you're it doesn't even matter if you're gun hunting. It happens. I mean, bad shots happen.
We got another couple we're going to have on is I'm going to try to get, he said he'd come on, is Scott Ottmer. He's with Trophy Properties, and talk about the way that where the world's at now with buying hunting property and prepping your property different ways. So he'll be fun to have on. And between the two of us, we've got so many different people that are what I would call great hunters that I like picking their brains about stuff, and they'll be in and out through the course of the winter. And then I'd like to get all the pro staffers together one day and try to get them jammed into we got some young guys that are hunting out east. We got young guys hunting here. I want to get everybody, try to get them all in and get everybody together and sit around a round table and talk hunting. but that's kind of what we're going to set it up, and we're going to try to do, like right now, I'm going to probably try to do one, maybe two a month. And then we'll just kind of roll through the season and see what happens. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think that hopefully people want to listen. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know.
I mean, like I told the boys over all the film and stuff, I said, I mean, you guys don't know how much camaraderie you guys will build together, hunting together, sit in the same tree, the encounters you're going to have with deer and the harvests and stuff like that. And if the only people watch it's your family and your friends, then
so be it.
Yeah. I mean,
I've just always thought that it was fun, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And finally, I said this was the year. I said, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. You can't keep waiting because sometimes things just don't ever happen. So we're doing it. This is episode 1, and hopefully we will have more to come, and it'll be good for people to enjoy it. So In the Drop Zone is officially finished their first ever podcast. So we'll see what happens from here.